And I think we're live. I hope we're
Yep.
live.
Yep, we are.
Sanjay, Engineer Wannabe, what is up, man? How you been?
Not too much. Pretty good. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Fuck, I mean, like since what first quarter of the year thereabouts, we did our last live.
Yeah.
It's been a long
January
time.
maybe. I remember it was still snowing over here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's just boiling over here now.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. We're under a heat wave as well. So
Oh man,
yeah.
the joys
What's
of
the
global warming.
what's the weather like there?
Very hot.
Yeah.
Very hot. And in my living room where I normally work and where I'm doing the live right now, my AC doesn't work, so I'm stuck going old school. Got the fan on.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I got the ceiling fan on because
Yeah,
if I put the AC on, it's just way too loud. You can't do it,
yeah,
so you can have to suffer through the heat.
yeah. And it looks like we got a couple people who are already in. Sorry, guys, it's been a minute since me and Sanjay have spoken,
Yeah.
so we're just catching up. But hi to everyone who's joined in. Hi to Design Atelier, Paris Pat. We've got Watch One Silver, Stefan Schweitzer, and we've got people from all around the world, which is cool. It's a good start.
Yeah.
So for a bit of background, me and Sanjay, we're going to do a live with our good buddy Constantine from Mr. B. However, unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it today. That will still be happening just in a few more weeks. So we decided to do a live anyway, since both of us were free. So forgive us if we're not too organized. But I'm gonna start out right with it. Oh well, let's see what's on your wrist today, man. What are you wearing?
Yeah, I am wearing my Seiko Spb213.
Oh, very cool. I like that
So
nice white dial or silvery sort of dial.
yeah,
How long
yeah,
you had that one for?
uh, about a month and a bit. Not too
Okay.
long. Yeah. Um, I kind of gave up on Seiko for a while because of all the QC issues.
Yeah.
I think because the last time we spoke, I had the Steel Master, right, with the steel bezel.
Yeah.
And I think I was showing you how the 30 at the 30-second mark, it was way off. Like the bezel was way off. After that, I sold that and I just gave up on Seiko. But then when I went to my AD and I saw this, I was like, oh, man, it's so nice.
It took you. You need to stop going to the AD, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, you need to just stop going. Like it's like he just like lures you in.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm proud to announce my Cartier is finally back.
Nice.
Finally, after like 6 or 7 weeks, because I sent it to service,
Yeah.
and then lockdown hit. So
Um,
like the guys at service did a great job. They did it really, really fast as soon as lockdown lifted, but it was just at the wrong time that I took it in. I think I took it in and they said, oh yeah, it'll probably be like maybe about a week to 10 days thereabouts. And then
yeah.
about 5 days later, lockdown hit. And you know
Yeah.
how like when they say a week to 10 days, it's like the service itself is maybe 2 or 3 days. But
Yeah.
it's like when you fit into those 10 days, like depending on how many other watches they have and whatnot. So I just must have been at the exact wrong part of that rotation. And then lockdown hit for 5 or 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
then yeah, this was literally the first outing when lockdown lifted. First time I leave the house was
Yeah.
to go pick this up. So worth it. I really missed it.
Yeah. So it's a local guy then who did it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's this place called the Repair Hub
Okay.
here in Delhi.
Yeah.
Really, really nice service. It was my first time getting a watch service, so I was also like a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But reached out to a couple local groups and they recommended him. And like, he trained in Switzerland, he knows his stuff. And like just going there, like, you see the setup. I'll do like a video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be going back there in a little bit to sort of film like the setup and talk a little bit more about the experience.
Yeah.
But it just gives you so much confidence when you go in, they have like the full hermetically sealed room, following COVID protocol on top of like good watch service protocol, making sure no dust gets in or anything.
Mhm.
So that was like really, really confidence inspiring. So in the end, the results is really, really good. Like my Cartier was losing like 11, 12 seconds a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, I should probably take this in for service. Because I don't know like if the previous owner had it serviced or anything like that. For all I know, it hasn't been serviced since it was new, and it's like a 2008 watch. So
Yeah, it probably hasn't been serviced.
yeah, so well overdue.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, man, because lately you seem to have taken on my other fun favorite brand, which is Omega. I started following when you picked up the Railmaster, and then now you've got the Necton. I think did you have another one in between? I forgot.
Speedmaster as well.
Speedmaster as well.
Yeah.
3861. So talk me through how, because the last time we spoke, I think you had just fallen out of love with Horus.
Yeah.
Because of the 400. And you were falling out of love with Seiko because of the QC issues.
Yeah.
Then fast forward to now, you're 3 Omegas in. What happened, man? how did that happen?
Well, it's kind of a long story. Well, I should mention I was still kind of on board with Horus. I still was going to add an Aquas to the collection, which I did not too long after we spoke. I added the Clean Ocean again, which was one of the watches I regretted selling. But yeah, I've always been an Omega fan. It's just been hard for me to really get the pieces I wanted. So I've always liked the Speedmaster, but I couldn't wear the Speedmaster. It just was a bit unwieldy. It wasn't comfortable for me to wear. So when this the Railmaster was always one of my favorite Omegas, and I got an opportunity to buy it new old stock. So it's not really new old stock, but new at the AD, and I picked up the Railmaster. Really odd story with the Railmaster. I had it for 2 months, I think. Was loving it. I didn't have really very many issues other than the flat lugs. Got into a bit of a fender bender, a tiny car accident, and I can't really explain why, but I poured out my frustration on the Railmaster.
And that's you just blamed it for it?
Well, kinda. Okay, so it was the most self-destructive thing I could do. I don't know what my psychology, what my mind is like, really, but that was the most self-destructive thing I could do, rather than get rid of my Grand Seiko, which I would never do. My favorite Grand Seiko.
Yeah.
So yeah, after the fender bender, I was already on my way to the AD. I drove back into my home, grabbed the Railmaster box, grabbed a couple of other, I pretty much grabbed all my watch boxes, and I drove to the AD. I was going to just throw it all away, except for my Grand Seikos. But yeah, so that's what happened. But it turned out, I traded the Railmaster for a Speedmaster. So the brand new Speedmaster Hesselite. And I really fell in love with that because it fit my wrist, which I can explain. Like, there are a bunch of little changes in the new gen Speedmaster. So yeah, all those little changes. It's slightly thinner. The profile's a bit better. Just the new bracelet, all those little things kind of add up to it being able to be comfortably worn on my wrist. And so I'm kind of sad about the Railmaster, but I don't regret it because it led me to the Speedmaster, which is more than what I could ask for, and I'm happy that I can wear it, and I haven't really looked back. And the Necton was another funny story. A friend of mine on Facebook mentioned that my AD had a pre-owned Necton. It was like a month old, so barely used. And my AD was giving a really good deal on it. So I called my AD up after a couple of days, stewing on it for a bit, and it was a really good deal. So so I couldn't pass up on the deal. I had a Black Bay 58 Navy, which I traded and put some money down and got the Necton. So really, really two great watches. I'm really happy to own both of them. And yeah, I guess before I still I think when we spoke, I said two of my favorite brands are Grand Seiko and Omega. Those are my favorite brands. I just couldn't justify collecting Omega the way I normally collect other brands. Like I kind of collect like the pillars of each brand, kind of in an eccentric kind of way. Omega is really expensive compared to Grand Seiko, but things a couple of deals worked out okay, and that's what
Well, I mean, to a degree, you already do now have like kind of the two of the pillars of Omega. I mean, you got a
Yeah.
Seamaster and a Speedmaster. I would say to complete that trifecta, maybe like a Constellation, maybe like a Griffin Claw or something like that, if you want to go sort of big classic or a DeVille.
Yeah.
But I
It's
love
like
the
you're in
Nectin.
my head because I was already thinking that.
I love the Nectin. Like that when it came out. Like I love my Seamaster 300. I will probably never sell it because it's the watch that got me into this hobby.
Yeah.
But if ever something untoward would happen to it, and I would need to get a new Seamaster, it would hands down be the Nectin. I'm just like a terrible sucker for relief dials. I think it's like it's because I'm a 90s baby, you know, like in the 90s we're all about relief dials. You know, of course you had the original Yachtmaster, the Blancpain trilogy, the first models of the Ulysse Nardin Marine Divers all had those relief bezels. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
So the Nectin, like when that came out, I was like, fuck, that's cool. That's a cool watch. And I love how also, like, you know, you get an fender bender, you like get mad, you're like, screw this, you know what? I'm gonna sell a watch. like that's your that's your rage out.
Yeah.
I'll probably like throw something or like I'd probably kick the car that I just crashed. Like, I'd be like, fuck, it's damaged anyway, it's its fault. But I love your restrained reaction. Your restrained or maybe redirected reaction, because I'm sure you were still pretty pissed.
Yeah,
but
redirected would be more accurate.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. I didn't show any aggression toward the other person. You know, I was really kind and you know, because I felt bad for that person too. It was just an old lady, you know, just reversing a bit too fast. And you know, yeah, it was wasn't a good situation, but no one was hurt, so that's good.
Yeah.
Except for the
one was hurt. Yeah, exactly. It took the brunt of your ire.
Yeah.
So just taking a look at some of the comments in the box, we got Kevin S saying, "Don't give up on Seiko." Well, let's see how that's worked out. I mean, obviously you got another one, so you haven't given up too much. Design Atelier is not wearing a microbrand; he's wearing an Horus. Good, nice. Good little connection with you there.
Yeah.
And Kevin S says the Pasha matches my style. Thank you. I love it. Like that's another one of those watches that I don't think I'll ever sell. Like even though I shafted myself when I traded my Tudor in terms of like the trade-in value versus getting the Pasha was so worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And the Tudor Black Bay Chrono was a cool watch, but I just love this more. Design Atelier also says you seem to be in pain when relating the story. I think now that I've heard it, I can kind of understand why.
Yeah. I've told this story a few times, and Jason has been around. So,
because of your horological Hulk smash, according to Watch Medicine, Kevin S doesn't think Omega is expensive as compared to Grand Seiko. Well, Grand Seiko has been going up in price like quite quickly, from what I've seen, and from a lot of the new models. I mean, we actually recently, like in the comments on those new quartz GMTs. Those are like crazy, man. Like for was what, like $5 or $6 grand for quartz GMT. Like,
yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At first, I thought maybe it was the the case finishing probably costs a bit, but Grand Seiko has given that case finish or a similar case finish on much cheaper watches, and the chief example would be the SBG X343. And the 341, a very similar case finishing, much cheaper. The next argument was maybe the fact that it's got this GMT movement in it with a jumping hour hand, but Grand Seiko provides a cheaper version in the SBGN 003, 005. And then I thought maybe the dial, the dial has this sunray pattern on it that's really exaggerated. But when you see it in person, it's just mostly a glossy dial with a very subtle sunray finishing. It's not like the SBGY 003. So I don't understand. I don't understand what Grand Seiko did there. But
I think there's some Zaratsu accounting going on there.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving up market. So the way Seiko does things is they discontinue old watches and provide a new watch at a way higher price. And that seems to be what's going on. It's not like Rolex or Omega where they do like a couple of % increase every year. Grand Seiko chops off a brand or a model and then puts a new one in and says, hey, $1,000 more.
Yeah. But that being said, though, the interesting thing is that still so many Grand Seikos out there are such good value. Like I'm still thinking about the you know how terrible I am with reference numbers. The black dial with the mounted watt, the GMT with the mounted watt. I can remember names, reference numbers. I'm just terrible with.
The SBGJ203.
Yes, that one. That one is still on my mind, and that one is still around. But that, for example, is around $5,000. Has a cool looking dial.
Yeah.
High beat movement, automatic GMT. Amazing looking finish from what I can tell, and that costs about the same as this quartz one that just came out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, clearly whoever's doing Grand Seiko pricing doesn't know the art of the progressive price increase.
The funny story is that the Railmaster actually really caused a bunch of issues in my collection because it made me get rid of my Iwate high beat Grand Seiko. So the white version.
Oh, you got rid of it?
Yeah. So once I got the Railmaster, it really competed with my high beat Iwate as my daily watch, my most worn watch, and the high beat SBGJ201, the one I had, was far too thick. It felt really clumsy and really thick once I had the Railmaster, which is a lot thinner and really more not svelte, not groundbreakingly thin, but it carried itself very in a very thin way. And because of that, I eventually sold the high beat GMT, and I got a different 44 GS case. That's the two-tone one. So it kind of replaced that Iwate dial one that I had. And then the Railmaster kind of took off, I don't know what happened there, but
then the Railmaster caused the fender bender and was never seen again.
Yeah.
It went on the run.
Yeah.
But how are you enjoying the Speedmaster though?
It's really nice. I had a tough time dealing with the bracelet, sizing it. I probably shouldn't have sized it myself. There were a couple of screws with a bit too much Loctite on it. And so I used the hot water technique. Soak the bracelet in hot water and then take out the screws. But other than that, the Hesselite is actually quite durable. I know a lot of people say it scratches when you look at it, give it a bad look. But it's actually, I don't see a scratch on it. I played with my kids with it. It's taken a couple of hits. Not a single mark on the Hesselite. So I'm really impressed with the Hesselite. I mean, I'm sure if I hit a corner of a metal doorknob or a door hinge, I'm sure it'll leave a mark. But other than that, everyday non-accidental wear, it's been holding up really well. So I love that Speedmaster. It's really taking a lot of my wrist time.
Yeah, one thing I really love about the new the 3861 equipped one is how it has that little like stepping to the dial. It's a little difference between the last one, but I think it just adds so much more depth and just makes it, I don't know, that little bit more interesting.
Yeah,
I love how they changed enough. I think you look at them next to each other, you can tell they're different. And obviously the bracelet is sort of probably the biggest visual difference. But they didn't change so much that it was like they messed with the formula. It's funny because you think you compare Omega to Rolex. Rolex obviously like changes at snail pace. Omega normally does these big changes every time. It's like Omega showing, hey, we can do the Rolex thing too, but just with 500 of our other watches, we just don't.
Yeah, I also like that they did cutouts on the dial for the indices, and then they filled it with lume. That's it's so nice, just the little details,
Yeah. And what's the clasp like? It doesn't have a quick adjust on it, does it?
Nope. The usual Speedmaster, it has one adjustment.
The little micro anchoring points.
Yeah.
So I think on the last bracelet you could spec one with a quick adjust. I'm not sure if that's an option on the new one. I would hope it is because no,
because it tapers to such a exaggeratedly small clasp. But that said, the links are so small because each link is really, really tiny.
Yeah.
So you can get a really good fit. And and that one anchoring point. So there's one anchoring point you can adjust it to. That's enough for me, really. So I find it really comfortable. It has a little bit of give to it, the bracelet itself. So you never feel like your wrist is getting choked. So
no, short links definitely make a huge difference with getting a perfect fit. I realized that with the Uncle Seiko bracelet.
yeah,
Like, it fits absolutely perfect between super short links, and it has, I think, 6, I forget if it's 6 or 8 anchoring points on the clasp. Like, you have no excuse for not fitting it right. And even like with the pin sleeves, it was not really a big deal. Like, I used to always think that, oh, you know, has to be screw fixed, has to be screw fixed. Changing pin sleeves is really not that hard. It's not rocket science.
No, I actually prefer them. Especially because of the issues screws can give you. They can back out, they strip, too much Loctite. Omega's horrible implementation of 2 tiny screw heads with a little pin in the middle. That sucks. It really sucks. Because you have to take both sides out.
Yeah, exactly. I had to do it on my Seamaster.
Yeah, and you have to slide the pin out, and
so you kind of need like the block and like the thing for the pins anyway, like just to sort of poke out that little bar that's in the middle.
Yeah,
but
it's a disaster waiting to happen. That
said, though, they are very nice and solid. Like,
yes, yeah,
my Seamaster bracelet, like it's built like a tank, but also it's just too heavy to wear in the summer. So that's why I'm glad I have the other one. It's nice and light and comfortable. Yeah. And then once it's not boiling, then maybe I'll switch it back. But shifting gears, talking chronographs, another watch that has some past history in your collection. We got the new Zenith Chronomaster Original just came out, successor to the Chronomaster that you used to own. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen it?
I have. I think this one has the 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, it's got the 3600 caliber from the Chronomaster Sport.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really have that many thoughts about it. I prefer the older one again if I were to get it again. It just seems a bit too finicky. The 1/10 of a second complication chronograph.
It is a bit stressy when you see it in action.
Yeah, I feel like it would, raise up my blood pressure inside.
That's true. And for me, like what makes, like, technologically, I think it's brilliant. And also in practical terms, if it was 1970 something and we were measuring the speed of like a race car, that'd be the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
But I actually because I haven't had a chronograph since my Black Bay Chrono, and my next watch I want to get either a Chrono or another GMT. And for me, it's like vital to have an hours register, because like for anything under 60 minutes, I'll just use a dive bezel.
Exactly.
It's just easier and quicker. Yeah. But if I'm gonna have a chronograph, if I'm gonna time stuff, I'm probably going to want to have hours, because also because I work doing like consultation, like I normally have to charge by the hour. So it's like I want to involve my watch in that decision.
Anything to add value to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the more excuses, like I will happily, eggs, chicken, roast, anything I'm cooking, right there, dive bezel, hands down.
Yeah, I'm the same. So yeah, I have the same rationalization. I'd rather have the hours than a 1/10 of a second. I mean, yeah, it looks cool, and I guess it's something to brag about, but after you're done bragging about it, what next?
Yeah, like if I was attending Formula 1 races on the regular, then I'd love it. I would be that guy who's there timing it on his watch instead of watching the giant super precise clock that they have.
Yeah.
But apart from those applications, like I'd probably just prefer an hours register. Like, and to be fair, like I noticed that when I had my Black Bay, and like I've considered also like a Breitling Premier, which I love. I think it looks really cool. I love the 2 register layout. But again, I need those hours. Like I prefer much more something like the JLC Polaris, which does away with the running seconds, because running seconds I can live without.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a vertical clutch, you can just leave the seconds running on the chrono and it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I can't do a chrono without hours register, it turns out.
Yeah, I guess we're not the target customer then.
I guess not, but I do have to say I like the bracelet on the new Chronomaster Original. It's a lot sort of more angular and has a nice little taper to it compared to the Chronomaster Sport, which I feel like was just inviting controversy with the way they did the bracelet. I feel I said this from when it first came out. If they'd have put the Defy bracelet on it, none of these comparisons would come out. It would still look really cool, and it would be much safer. Or if you look at it even on the strap, the black dial with the strap,
Looks
you
way
know, the whole Daytona appearance thing is much less apparent.
Yeah.
But for some reason they said, you know what, let's go with a bracelet that looks like the Daytona and a clasp that looks like the Daytona from the 80s. And but apparently it's worked. Like, apparently they're selling very well, and from what I can see, they sell for around retail, which for Zenith is good. So kudos to Zenith for business wise picking something cool, and now they're pushing that caliber into other watches as well. So clearly they're dedicated to it. I just hope they do an hours variant of it. Like, I hope at some point they just drop the running seconds, because that would be the ultimate.
Yeah.
Have an hours
that would be
register and still have the 110.
Yeah. That would be interesting for sure. But then you can't leave the chronograph running.
That's true, because lateral clutch. But
Yeah.
oh well, details. All right, and now let's take a look what everyone's saying down here. Design Atelier is still on about your about your little fender bender. As long as you don't encounter an old lady backing in from the door, your Hesalite should be fine. Yeah, I mean, like, and also, like, everyone talks about how Hesalite scratches. Also, it's pretty easy to fix. You know, scratching a Hesalite is not like a scratch on your case, or if you manage to scratch a sapphire, you should probably be pretty concerned. And then we've also got Stefan is asking, how do you apply such a little amount of Loctite to screws?
I don't. I really don't. I mean, once I took Loctite, I poured some into a little cup, like a plastic cup, and I used a toothpick, and I was holding it with my fingertips, like my fingernails, and then trying to use the toothpick to get some Loctite on. This is specifically for an Omega screw. If it's like a Tudor screw or a Rolex screw, which is like a proper screw, like a really long piece with a proper screw head, I think it would be way easier. Because you can actually hold the screw with your fingers and then apply the Loctite. So I guess that's how I would do it. But with my Omega Necton, with the Omega Speedmaster, I really couldn't do it because they're just tiny screw heads, and you can't really hold it. You can't apply Loctite without getting it all over your hands, and even on the screw head itself, and it just turns like this gunky blue color. So so I just didn't. I guess I inspect it every once in a while now. Make sure, when I'm cleaning the bracelet, I'll make sure none of the screws are backing out. But it hasn't been that much of an issue. I've never experienced a screw back out, but it is on my mind though.
Yeah, I've never experienced a screw back out either, but admittedly, I've only changed the links on my bracelet pretty much once when I bought it and then just left it. And knock on wood, it's all good.
Yeah,
but
there's Loctite residue in there, so that should do a good job of holding it in for the most part.
And Design Atelier is saying, drop the Loctite on a paper, dab a needle over it, dab the needle on the screw.
Yeah,
that actually sounds pretty logical. Well, clearly we didn't think of that.
Well, I was kind of using a toothpick instead of a needle, but I mean, yeah, like with an Horus screw, way easier because you get to hold the actual screw. I guess with Omega is the problem.
Yeah, because those little ends are so easy to lose as well. I was so paranoid when I was adjusting mine. I was like, forget about how you screw it back in or how you unscrew it. Once you've got the screws out, those tiny little ends are like microscopic.
Yeah. Grand Seiko does it too. So that's what you have to look forward to when you get one.
Fun. I'll be definitely looking forward to telling whoever I buy it from to size it for me then. And hoping that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned Horus. How's your relationship with Horus going?
Good.
Yeah.
I nothing really has transpired since the whole Caliber 400 thing. I had a couple of really good conversations back toward the end of last year with VJ from Horus, and he is nothing but a gentleman. So I really respect him still. Um, really not too sure about the whole caliber 400 thing issue still going on. Again, my issue wasn't with the jumping minute hand, which was really annoying, but I would have lived with that. My issue was with the winding efficiency of
Yeah.
the watch, and I don't think they've really addressed that. They still tell people to wind it 210 times, which I think is unacceptable because it's not a manual wound watch, right?
Yeah.
Sure, when you put it on, I'll wind it 210 times. But then when I leave it for a day or two, now I'm at 3-day power reserve, and it's never gonna hit that 5-day on its own. Um,
Yeah. That can be
that's a
frustrating.
problem, I think.
And
All they
also, I
all
don't
they
know.
have to do is use a heavier rotor weight, maybe. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's too
Yeah.
expensive to fix.
I don't know. I think maybe they're just waiting for it to sort of phase out. I'm sure they will fix it, but they just won't admit it. Like the same thing with the jumping seconds. Like, because for me, the jumping seconds would annoy the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, for all that they say, oh, back it up a little bit. It's like that's not a that's like a hack. That's not a that's not an actual solution. And damn well they didn't like start from the drawing board. So like, okay, guys, we want to make sure that when you set this watch, you have to set it 3 to 4 minutes back because we want to see everyone to see the theater of the jumping minute hand. Because otherwise they would have advertised it and come up with a name and probably written it off as a complication.
There was a really good YouTube video, a review from a watchmaker. I forget his name. It was Watch Pro, or no, not Watch Pro. But a smaller channel. I think he had 2 or 3 thousand subs. He did a really good in-depth analysis of the actual movement, and
Yeah,
he gave Horus ways on how to fix this and how
yeah,
it can be easily fixed. The jumping minute hand, so it can be done. Maybe there will be a revision to the movement, and then Horus will update existing movements when it comes in for service. That's what a lot of people seem to be saying that Horus will do, but Horus hasn't really admitted to it being a problem. And to a certain extent, it would be annoying, but
yeah.
I'd live with it if I loved the watch enough, which I did, and I was going to live with it. But yeah,
I mean, it's a good looking watch,
yeah,
and like the movement is extremely promising if it could deliver on everything it did. And like I can sort of see your logic on like at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily like one of the big things about it is that it has that long power reserve. So I can see sort of the more disappointment about the power reserve than the whole jumping minutes thing.
yeah,
But like I think when they get that right, which I have no doubt they eventually will, and like you said, and like we've said, they'll probably just silently roll that out. It's going to be a killer movement for the money,
yeah,
and it's still a great looking watch all around. The dial is really nice. The movement I think looks quite nice, considering it's not made to be like Lange levels.
yeah,
Like that's not what it's not pretending to be.
yeah,
So I think it shows a lot of promise. It just needs a bit of time for them to iron out some of the little minor eccentricities, as I'm
yeah,
sure they would describe it.
yeah.
Watch Once Over is asking, what makes you guys purchase mainstream brands, JLC, Omega, etc.? You want to take that one first?
Sure. For me, mainly it's history and heritage. I I really like a good story. So just knowing that a brand existed for a really long time, 200, 250 years, even 120, 130 years, it's really impressive to me. But not just that. There's always innovation behind those years. Like with Seiko, you have the quartz crisis, you have spring drive, you have really impressive high beat movements, and the whole story with uh, the trials, the watch trials, accuracy
Hmm.
trials
Oh
in
yeah,
Switzerland. So
where
those
they
stories are really
wipe the floor with the Swiss.
yeah, those stories are really exciting, right? And interesting, which is why I love Grand Seiko, and I'm happy to own Grand Seiko. People may not like Grand Seiko, and they may consider it subpar heritage wise, or brand clout wise, but I couldn't care less. I just love the story. um same with Omega. Omega has been really involved with the military, and I'm really interested in that, the moon missions. The fact that it's worn in outer space, it's flight qualified for all manned space missions, as it says in the back of every Speedmaster. Um, Great story, great history, great heritage, and I really enjoy that. I'm sure I'll move on from the story part, because now I have my technically impressive Grand Seikos. I have history and heritage and story filled Omegas. Um, I feel like I'll move on to something a bit more niche, maybe. But that would be my reason for owning mainstream brands. Mainstream brands have stories. They're a reason why they're mainstream. They've been around for a long time, and you don't
Yeah.
have to pay a lot to get a mainstream brand like Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton has incredible history, and yeah, a friend of mine, Keith, mentioned that they're not really what they used to be, because they're no longer American, but they still pretend to be American, and that kind of chopped at my ankles a little bit, but uh, yeah, still Hamilton is a great brand. Tissot, incredibly oldest known trademark. Their logo, no, that's Longines.
No, that's
Longines
Longines.
has that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tissot has some other story. It's been a while, but yeah, you don't have to pay a lot to get incredible heritage. So
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think there's so many brands, and also especially when you branch into pre-owned vintage. I mean, like, you hear so much online when people talk about value retention as if it's like the do all and end all with watches. There's so much fun to be had with depreciation, specifically with when other people have paid for that depreciation.
yeah, like the
Um,
Necton. Oh man, I wouldn't have been able to afford the Necton if someone hadn't taken the hit for me.
yeah, exactly. And I definitely agree. I think story plays a big part in that. Like I've said it a couple times, these are stupid decisions. We're not getting them because of even though like the tech side is really cool and interesting, let's face it, our phones can do much better
Yeah,
than any watch. Like these are so much more about, I think, that sort of emotional connection to it. For me, it's also very similar. I like the story behind a watch. And for me, a lot of the time it's, finding something I can relate to or something that just interests me in another area. For example, like with my Seamaster, I was always a big fan of James Bond. And for me, my James Bond is Pierce Brosnan. And obviously that's the style, like, the Planet Ocean is more associated with Daniel Craig.
yeah,
But that Bond style that started with GoldenEye and continued up until Casino Royale, like, that for me is the Bond watch. And I grew up watching James Bond movies, so for me it was like definitely something that attracted to me. So yeah, like a lot of it, I guess, to answer the question of why we end up with mainstream brands, is because also mainstream brands, they're successful because they were better at communicating their stories. Omega put in the work to make sure that you associate their watch with James Bond. Cartier is another brand that is amazing at telling stories. You hear the story of the development of the Santos with, Santos Dumont and his dirigible. It just sounds cool. You think of this guy in a giant balloon thinking, oh, I can't pull out my pocket watch. I'm going to go ask someone to make me a watch for my wrist. And that invents essentially the pilot's watch. Or the Pasha, like I like the idea of like knowing that the story behind it is that, it's this Moroccan royalty who he wanted to be able to go swimming with his watch in the 30s in the middle of the desert and then go to his dinner parties and stuff like that. It's stupid stuff, but they're great stories that, just sound cool and just make it more interesting.
yeah,
And that's something that I think only with time do those stories really set in. Brands like Rolex have been able to, like when they did the Explorer, or well, they marketed the Explorer. I think it was actually an OP that went up Everest to begin with, but they marketed the Explorer along that line at least. And so there's that interest in that. I think they've been around at enough key points in history to create those stories that that really, I think, makes it just attractive. And that's not to say that micro brands or smaller brands can't do the same.
mhm,
I think when you look at a lot of newer brands that are just starting, a lot of what they're doing, the smart ones, is they're letting you get to know their owners, letting you get to know the people who run them, because it's like an ongoing story. You know, we can't really know, you know, Louis Cartier, for example. He's been gone for quite some time. So, like, I think that the story element is a big thing, and of course the design. Like, let's not kid ourselves. You know, we like how a watch looks, and the tech specs are cool as well. So much goes into it, but I think story is probably a big thing, and then just interest. You know, like I like when I find something that like I haven't seen before. You know, that discovery element is also important for me when it's something that I had to look really hard to discover. Like, I remember, I think I told you it was way back. I was looking at that Crador Phoenix. And for me, it was like, I had never seen something like that before. I didn't even know it existed. There's like all of 3 articles on it. For me, that little hunt is like so interesting. And I'm actually really annoyed because there was a Crador Phoenix. It's a day-date dual time. They only made 1,000 of them. Of course, only sold in Japan.
Yeah.
And there was one on Chrono 24 for like $2.5 grand or something like that. And it sold really, really fast.
Shouldn't have made that video, man.
I shouldn't have. People are noticing. Why do you think I haven't mentioned what other watches I've really, really got my eye on? When I do those watch on my mind videos, those are like a month or 2 months past. Like, I've already moved on to the next one in my mind, because I don't want you guys driving the price up on the watches I want.
There you go.
There's a little insider information. But no, like, I'm honestly always looking, like, I'll just put, you know, chronographs on Chrono 24 and just see what cool stuff comes up. For me, that's also a huge, huge appeal.
Yeah. So
let's see what everyone else is saying in the box. A couple new people in. Got blah, blah, blah. Good to see you there, buddy. Jock Dodson, hi. Jonathan Robinson in the box. We've got Cameron A asking you, Sanjay. Hi, Sanjay. What do you hear on Rolex 80s? Will it be easier or tougher to get a stainless steel Rolex?
That's really not a question for me. I really couldn't care less. But because you asked, I don't think it'll get any easier. I mean, certain models, I feel like the OPs will start to get more easier, or will start to get easier to purchase. That's the only model that I'm interested in, the green dialed Oyster Perpetual and 36 millimeters. I cannot believe that they're still so hard to get and that they're still going at such a high premium.
Even in 36?
Yeah, even 34. Even 34 is it hard to get. I don't, because I'd wear a 34, but it seems insanely difficult to get. So I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll start to trickle in, because the coronavirus is pretty much behind us now, almost, hopefully. And you know, production will go back into full force, unless if they're actually holding things back, and you know, their middlemen trying to drive out the prices. I think that's the only reason why things might get more difficult to get. But I would think certain stainless steel models will become easier to get, but take that with a grain of salt. I'm no expert on Rolex, really. I'm really not interested in Rolex. So your man Fred here is
I mean,
your
like,
guy.
I'm not the biggest, like, I keep an eye on Rolex just because, like, it's, you know, you kind of have to. It serves as a bit of a reference point for what's going on in the rest of the market. And as I always say, you know, like, the more craze and hype that goes to Rolex, it makes, in my view, more interesting watches more accessible as well. You know, because at the end of the day, they have to discount or they're easier to find just to, you know, compete with Rolex at the end of the day, you know. While everyone is busy off paying premiums and getting on wait lists for, you know, a Submariner, I'm happy for an AD to discount a Seamaster, you know, or for a discounted JLC Polaris. There's so many other cooler watches, even a discounted Blancpain 50 Fathoms or a Bathurst Cap. Like, so for me, I pay attention to it just to know, okay, as long as the heat is still there, all the other watches are going to be accessible. I would get worried in the sense of when this market cools down and levels out, because also you're starting to see other brands are starting to catch on and try and replicate a little bit of the Rolex model. I mean, you hear about stuff like, well, I mean, Omega is probably the closest in a lot of individual editions, you know, stuff like the Snoopy, for example. You know, that's very difficult to get, you know, at Rolex levels, I would say. Like, Rolex is probably the brand that has it down packed the most consistently, but you see more and more brands are starting to create their little waitlist models.
Even Seiko,
Yeah.
with the King Seiko that they reissued, I still haven't seen it readily available. They're releasing like 1 or 2 a month, so that's going to keep prices high. So even
And I think it has nothing to do with production. Honestly, I think it's just a strategy to try and capitalize and create a perception of scarcity. Because for me, the most annoying thing is when people say that Rolexes are rare. They're not. They're really, really not. There are so many watches that are less common. It's just rare to find a Rolex in an AD. But
if you go to Chrono 24,
go to Chrono 24, go to a gray market dealer. I had someone asking me today on Instagram. They asked, like, I was talking to them about when I went to Dubai, and they asked, oh, you know, like, did you find any of the hype pieces in an AD? Because they're in Dubai. I think it's the biggest Rolex AD in the world they have there. It's like 3 floors, and it's 3 floors of two-tone Datejusts and Yachtmaster 2s in gold.
Yeah.
Like, but then I went to a shoot at a gray market dealer, 10 GMTs in a row. You know, like, they're not rare. They're literally just not where you expect to find them, but they're not difficult to find.
No, you just have to play the game.
Anyway, there are plenty of channels that will talk about that on end.
Yeah.
I pay attention to it because it's relevant, because it's like important for me to know what's going on. But at the same time, it's not really my focus either. But we've got another question, a little bit more philosophical question, still within watches though. Do you think that watches have now become men's jewelry instead of tool watches? That's Paris Pat asking.
I think so. I mean, I think it has been for a while, but not in the sense. I guess they still serve a purpose. You know, they still tell the time, and it's not just. I don't think it's just show off kind of. You know, for us watch enthusiasts, it's not a status symbol. I keep having to catch myself because, you know, for a lot of people, for the layman, it is a status symbol. A watch is a status symbol, and it, I guess in that case it is jewelry. But for me, it's more art than jewelry, and I think there's a bit of overlap there. But for me, it's the only version of traditional art, I suppose, that I really care about. I don't really care about putting up a beautiful painting, even though I can appreciate it at a museum or something. I don't really care about putting it up on my house and somewhere on a wall. I don't need to. However, if it's on my wrist and I can look at it whenever I want to, that's different. I'd rather do that. You know, so looking at, say, the snowflake dial on your wrist when you go to check the time, you know, and you get that serene feeling, or you put on a different, you know, like a really beautiful dial. I keep thinking Grand Seiko here, but you put on one of those, say the white birch, you get a different feeling, and to me, it's art. And to a lot of others, yeah, it does end up becoming a status symbol in jewelry. What do you think, Fred?
I agree. I think that actually the art comparison is probably a bit more apt. That being said, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I think it is a little bit deeper than jewelry. You know, like, normally, like, I'll wear like bracelets and necklaces, and those count as jewelry or men's jewelry, whatever you want to call it. But definitely there's a different involvement with those versus my watch. You know, my watch, I think it has a little bit more layers to it. And I think in the same way that different people can look at a watch and appreciate it differently, I think it has more in common with that, and more in common with art than, for, say, jewelry. Jewelry, I would say, is, you know, is an extension of clothing. It's an extension of your appearance. You know, I love all my clothes, and I pick out what I wear because I like the way I look in it. But it's a different thought process compared to my watch. But also it's different for everyone. You know, there are some people who will still ardently use their watch to go diving, which I think is great. I just don't have that many diving opportunities, you know? And also there are people like me who will try to force a reason to use their watch. But I think that's less of me really making it a tool watch, more of me being a bit of a tool to use my watch. But yeah, like I think it's different for everyone, and different people will get watches for different reasons. There are some people who, like you said, will get it as a status symbol, and it'll be no different than, you know, them getting a giant diamond encrusted necklace. But even a diamond encrusted necklace, that might be because they have a genuine appreciation for, you know, the quality of the stones in it or the craftsmanship that goes into making it. If you watch on Watch Eric's channel, he had a great video showing how they made this huge, massive gold chain, which, you know, if you see it on someone or even just see it on his channel at a different time, like I think he took it out when Roman Sharf came and just showed it, people might be saying, oh, you know, that's gaudy, that's just to show off. But you look at how much craftsmanship and how much work goes into making something like that, there's definitely people who can appreciate that. And like, I can appreciate just seeing that. So I think it's extremely subjective, but I would say that your comparison is, it's much closer to art than jewelry for most people, in the sense that it's just so subject to interpretation and different types of appreciation.
Yeah. There was a really cool video on producer Michael's channel, because he showcased Jacob & Co.'s Billionaire, I think.
Oh yeah.
And they were showing you know, how long, they were talking about how long it takes to make one, and well, I think it was like one a year, and it takes that long to find the perfect gems. I think they're all diamonds. To cut it out, to make the bracelet, to make the head, the case, and you know, it opened up an appreciation. I still wouldn't ever even consider, even if I had the money, consider one of those. But it opened up an appreciation for, you know, the work that goes, the artistry behind creating something like that. And you know, I had always written off Jacob & Co., but then looking at the Bugatti Chiron on the wrist, they have a working engine on the wrist, and you know, for no other reason than it being art. That's art.
Yeah, and like, especially when you hear Jacob explain it, you can tell he has a passion for the art and for the design, for that notion of pushing the limits, which really is, you know, it's a similar sort of thing to, you know, a Patek Grand Complication. He's just doing it on the part that you can see. He's doing it on, you know, on an aesthetic level, but it's still the craftsmanship to get that certain end result. You know, it's the same as, you know, the finishing on a case, gem setting, gem sourcing, or creating these, you know, what might be frivolous complications. It's like, well, you know, we're in watches, they're all frivolous. So I think it's really cool seeing how some brands might be perceived a certain way, but then that just brings it back to, you know, story. You know, you can, at least now, for example, you can still see videos and hear Jacob talking about his watches and what his approach is, and probably how his approach has evolved since starting his company. You know, he's come a long way from, you know, putting 4 quartz movements into a case for those like multi-time zone watches, which I admit, when I was a kid, I really wanted one of those. I thought those were the shit. Design Atelier is asking if we heard about what happened with Jody of Just One More Watch and what our take is. Yeah, poor Jody got his channel taken down for counterfeit claim, which I find a bit odd.
Yeah, it's back up now though. Like just before just before we went live, it came back up.
Okay, welcome back, Jody.
Yeah,
so he seems like a nice guy. Like when I saw that, like, it had been taken down, I was like, seriously?
Yeah,
his channel of all people? Like, what's YouTube gonna do without that level of enthusiasm? His intros are the best.
Yeah, and he's the most transparent guy, or one of the most transparent guys. He'll like disclose everything,
except for who Mr. X is.
Yes, except that. No, he's great, and yeah, I know I sent an email or a message to YouTube about it, and there were quite a few people who, you know, Jody asked for help, and then getting people to send a message to YouTube, and I hope that was what helped. But yeah, it seems like all is good now, at least unless if something crazy has happened while we've been chatting here. But
Yeah, I think YouTube is doing some sort of new rollout or something to do with like counterfeit watches. I think probably I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that it's well intentioned, but just still going through a few glitches. Because it was that video that Adrian from Bark and Jack put up where he's like shooting a fake Rolex, and that got taken down, or he got a warning about it or something like that.
we did. Huh.
Yeah, so definitely the targeting is to do with fake watches, but I think maybe they're kind of missing the mark, because in both cases, like when both channels have mentioned fake watches, it hasn't exactly been in favor of them.
Yeah,
which is how it should be.
but then at the same time, Watchfinder hasn't had any issues yet, right? So I wonder.
Not that I know of.
I wonder if there's someone who's offended in the fake watch market or fake watch world, the black market,
Could be.
who's going around reporting these videos as counterfeit videos, like promoting counterfeits, and YouTube's algorithm, or their automated machine learning, just flags it as a counterfeit thing, and they just delete it without any real due process.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the important thing is that it's back up.
Yes.
And if the intention is to root out counterfeits, then I think that's great. I hope they refine it, and hopefully no other like proper honest YouTube channel that's showing fakes as a way to show how to spot them, how to not get suckered into them. I think it's important for people to see that. But also I can imagine maybe one logic they have is that like, maybe counterfeiters are using these fakes, these videos as like sort of a guide of like, okay, these are the things we need to watch out for when we make a knockoff. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know.
Or they could be using those videos as a promotion to see how good their counterfeit watches are.
Yeah.
Because I think because Adrian actually mentioned something like that, that he was sent the counterfeit watch in one of the videos. I think it was a Seamaster. And they wanted to use his video to promote themselves. But yeah, I don't know what happened with all that, but
yeah, I didn't make it to actually see the video. I only saw the trailer for it.
Yeah.
And then it was taken down by the time I had time to watch it, which sucks. I would have liked to see, a fake watch get shot. But
yeah, I didn't see that one either. That was probably one of the videos in my watch later that said So there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, good thing that Jody's back. I think that's a really cool channel. And he's someone who's always putting out great content. And like I said, that level of enthusiasm on every single intro, like you can't replace that.
No, no, you can't.
Let's see what else we've got in the comments. Yes, the channel is back up. Jody's a very decent guy. Yep. Yep. Automation. Yeah, great for the community to close ranks and help out a member. I agree. I think that's one of the cool things about the watch community and the YouTuber community is that for the most part, like we're not assholes. Just try not to be.
Yeah.
And just in general, even on a micro level, like when you see like people in the comments who will like stand up when you have someone who's trolling you on a comment or something like that, like in general, I think being a YouTuber being a watch YouTuber, it's just nice. Everyone's pretty chill and really supportive. I think it's a nice place to be in.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely. And yeah, I've made so many friends. Everyone in the chat, I know almost, like a lot of them have their first names up, but I know most of them on a first name basis anyway. So it's just just a really nice community. Watch Once Over, Kevin, and everyone. Watch Medicine was there too. Bobby, he was talking about Snoopy, and then gave me a bit of a chuckle. But I don't know if you know Bobby, but he actually has every single Snoopy. And
really?
Yeah, and then Ed White. So he has this insane Speedmaster collection, and he used to be a huge Speedmaster collector too.
I love the Ed White.
Yeah.
I think it looks so cool. I love the bracelet on it. I love the way the movement looks. I think it's a sick watch. Like the Ed White and the Speedmaster Soyuz, I'm probably mispronouncing it, with the Meteorite subdials are probably the only two Speedmasters I would really consider getting. And that's not out of lack of respect for the Speedmaster, but I just have a bit of a thing that like I like having watches that are like more unique.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for me, like it means I'm pretty much barred from getting classics. My Seamaster is about as common or as ubiquitous as I can get, which means on the one hand I can't really enjoy the classics as much,
Yeah.
but also like there's so many cool watches out there. And I think like it's something I put on myself to force myself to experiment everything else. I can imagine in 20 years I'll be like, you know what, fuck it. Submariner, Speedmaster. I'll get all the classics and just be like, should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
But I'd rather walk that path.
I was kind of there too, because I didn't want to get the 3861. I wanted to wait for something, you know, different and special. But yeah, once I saw it, I kind of went
Well,
for
Omega
it.
will never leave you waiting for a special edition Speedmaster.
Yeah.
It's another one. Just came out.
Yep.
Oh, and another. Watch Medicine wants to know where I'm located. I'm in India. So that's also why I don't buy watches too often, because of the fun import taxes we have over here. Nothing like paying 60% on a purchase.
Yeah.
Or 80 or 90.
Which you had to do with the bracelet, right?
Yeah, with my bracelet, I had to pay. That was 60% tax on that. So that hurt, but still worth it. And yeah, that was a cool experience, because I was one of those people who was always thinking, you know, solid modern bracelets are the only way. You know, screw fixed links, super solid, nice and heavy, get a bit of weight to it. But I loved the look of the flat link bracelet, and that was one of the few ones that's actually compatible with the Seamaster, because obviously the flat link bracelet was for the most part designed for the Speedmaster, and you know, you have Uncle Seiko, you have Forstner, I think one or two others, but it's all for the Speedmaster. And so I thought to myself, you know, I really like the look of this, and I always try and sort of push my boundaries and try and open my mind a little bit. I was like, you know what, what's the worst that can happen? You know, if I don't like it, I don't like it. It's not that expensive. It's actually quite reasonably priced if you don't count the taxes I had to pay. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to give it a try. And what I liked was that, again, bringing it back to story, you know, you read and it's made like that on purpose. You know, like he doesn't make bracelets in the sort of modern way because he wants them to feel authentic. He wants, I think the best way to compare it is like if it's new old stock from the 70s.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit better because like there's solid links and all that.
Right.
But hollow end links. But yeah, like I wanted to just try it out and see, okay, is there a perspective to enjoy a rattly bracelet? And it turns out it is, because like I said, it's really, really hot over here. And you know, it's like, I love my Seamaster bracelet. It's nice and solid, but it's also fuck heavy. And like the watch is so much lighter on the Uncle Seiko bracelet because it's, you know, just, it's got that lighter construction like a more vintage bracelet would have. So I can still like have the look of having a bracelet on my watch, but not be weighed down by it. So yeah, like I really enjoyed that. And that's something that, again, I love about this hobby, is just pushing your limits and pushing your tastes to find out new stuff that you might like.
Yeah. I actually have a JB Forstner, but it's the Beads of Rice. And
oh yeah,
you know, it's kind of rattly, it's got the stamped clasp and things like that, but there's just something charming about it. And the fact that it's pretty affordable is another huge plus. So you don't feel like you need to get a milled clasp. You don't feel like you need to get something that's really solid. But
I do miss the triggers though. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
If there's all of the, like when I did my review of it, like the negatives, I had to contextualize them, because again, like if you're looking for like a solid modern feeling bracelet, you're kind of missing the point of this bracelet then, right. You know? But the only one thing I really couldn't justify that much is the friction fit. I miss having triggers, because like, especially because it's new, it's probably made to be very tight, because you know that over time it'll loosen. So like if you just cut your nails, oh, it hurts. It hurts to open it up.
You can loosen it if you wanted to do a bit of tinkering. But
I feel if I do, I'm going to overdo it, and then it's going to open every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let it. I'm going to let it patina. I'm going to let it functionally or internally patina, and yeah, I imagine in a year, I don't know. Like I don't know how long it takes to loosen up.
Yeah.
But I will go on the journey the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, coming up to the 1 hour mark. Let's take a leaf out of our good buddy Miguel from SoCal Watch Reviews book and talk about just other stuff, non-watch related stuff.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
going on in your life, man? What non-watch stuff would you like to highlight?
Ooh, that's tough, actually. My world revolves around watches, pretty much.
I know, right? Why do you think I asked you first before I said it?
Let's see. No, that's a watch too. I was gonna say I do this cool stream on Sunday nights with Bobby Legs, but that's
Oh,
about
yeah,
watches.
you've been going crazy with streams, man.
Yeah,
Like you've really been doing a lot of live streams. Power to
yeah.
you, man.
They're really fun. I try to do them every consistent, being there for everyone. Sorry, did I cut out there?
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
I wasn't sure
yeah.
if it was me or you. You tried to do them every, is where you
Yeah.
lost me.
I like I like chatting with everyone. Everyone who's here. I'm surprised so many people are here. But I guess it's 4th of July long weekend, so a lot
Oh
of the
yeah,
guys
that's
in the
right.
US.
Everyone in the U.S. Happy Independence Day or
Yeah,
Independence Day weekend.
yeah. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of streams, but that's all watch related. So I haven't watched any movies. I haven't read any books.
I love how you're just like looking around. You're like, I can imagine that like you're like seeing movies on a shelf, and you're like, no, I haven't watched those. Books on the shelf. No, I didn't read those either. They're probably there like just to hold up a watch.
Well, I was looking into the camera, and there are board games here. I haven't played.
Have you
board
played
games
any
either.
board games lately?
No,
Do you
I
even
haven't.
see your kids anymore?
Yeah, that's the only thing. I spend a lot of time with them. I work and I spend a lot of time with my kids. So, if you're in Canada, check out a couple of the trails here. They're really nice. They don't hold a candle to the trails in India or Sri Lanka, where I'm from, but they're really nice still. Really nice conservation areas. So I've been doing a lot of hiking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember a couple of your videos. You've done them like while you're sort of out and about on the go.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool. I miss going out or like just leaving the house.
Yeah. Well, you can now, right? Lockdown's over.
I can, like lockdown's lifted, but I'm still not vaccinated, so I'm still kind of hesitant because, well, even though lockdown's lifted, we're not really out of the woods.
Right.
So it's not hugely confidence inspiring. So like mostly I just try and stay inside as much as I can, order in as much as I can.
Yeah.
And also like they're saying that apparently in a few weeks another wave will hit. So I have to be judicious with my outings, but also go out as much as I can within that. So hopefully I'll be going back to the place where I got my watch serviced to shoot some content there, show everyone sort of what that's like, what a watch service entails. The people who run it there are really, really cool, really open. Shout out to Harman from the Repair Hub. Anyone in India, definitely recommend you going there before the lockdown happens, though, again.
Is there any way you can go on, say, a walk, like a hike or something?
I'd have to go out of the city.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's possible. It's doable. But again, also time is a bit of a pain in the ass. But yeah, mostly for me, non-watch related stuff, apart from work, and I don't have any kids. Mostly I've been trying to get back in shape after putting on the COVID-19 and then some. So trying to get back in shape, trying to work out a little bit more, eat a little bit cleaner, figure if I'm going to be stuck at home, I might as well be a little bit better life-wise in that sense. That, and then I've, for some reason, decided to relive my childhood and start watching Power Rangers again. I think it popped up on Netflix, and I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I was like, you know what? Let's see how this holds up. And completely irrelevant to today, but in my mind holds up perfectly fine. I'm still enjoying it just as much as when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to beat nostalgia.
Yeah,
So, like even
that's
I used to be a huge gamer, like not online multiplayer gamer, but those old school Super Mario and
oh yeah.
platformers. There you go, platformers is what I'm talking about. And so I was playing this game called Shovel Knight, which plays like an old school platformer, and I was really enjoying myself. This wasn't recently, but my wife was watching me, and she was looking at me, you know, falling into a pit again and starting over from the beginning, falling into a pit, starting over from the beginning, going back and moving over a little further, falling into a pit again, and then starting over at the beginning. And she was like, "That looks like torture. What are you doing?" And and I said, "Well, it's so much fun." So yeah, nostalgia can't be beat, really.
No, I really can't. I'm seeing Kevin S there saying Seiko collab with the Power Rangers. We need that. I think that'll be pretty cool. Because also,
Yeah.
like, the Power Rangers originally was based on a Japanese series, especially like the first few were all done by like they pretty much reused footage, like all the uniform footage essentially was actually reused from an old Japanese TV series, and then
Okay.
they just filmed like the American part, like with people like outside with like American actors when they're outside of the costumes, and then
Right.
they somehow stitched that together. Um, but yeah, like so it's got its roots in like Japanese TV, and I know that Grand Seiko did that Godzilla collaboration, so I can definitely see something like that, whether it be with
Yeah.
Seiko or Grand Seiko. I can definitely see some sort of cooperation or collaboration like that.
Yeah, because they did Street Fighter, they did Naruto, I think. So Power Rangers probably next on the list.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
If anyone from Seiko or Grand Seiko is watching, do it, please. That might be my Grand Seiko.
I wouldn't. I don't think they do a Grand Seiko. They probably do the Seiko fives, right? Again, because they seem to be tossing that Seiko 5 all over the place. But
That's true. Or,
yeah,
or maybe the Sharp Edge,
yeah.
just because I like that one more. I want to. I want to get my Power Rangers themed Japanese watch.
Power Rangers Sharp Edge GMT.
Yeah.
No, actually, you know what? Seiko did a Studio Ghibli high-end chronograph,
Oh yeah.
the RQ model. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Studio Ghibli, but they did like Porco Rosso, Howl's Moving Castle, or something like that. My Neighbor Totoro, really
No.
popular Japanese animated films. But
Okay. Yeah. Anime was never my strong point.
yeah,
But yeah, there's something about seeing, people in terrible dated kaiju costumes that's just fun.
yeah,
Like I can watch like old Godzilla, like the old Toro Godzilla movies. Those are sick.
yeah,
And also like I forget. I think it was Godzilla versus Ghidorah. No, it was Godzilla versus Mothra. I think one of those has like that really really good theme music that then got sampled by Pharoah Monch for possibly like it was one of the best and most out of like the weirdest, not weirdest, but like I feel most original sources to sample from for the
yeah.
song Simon Says. If you haven't heard it, I bet if you listen to it, you will recognize it and be like, oh, that's what that is. And when I
Okay.
found out that that was from an old Godzilla movie, then I just started watching them.
Yeah. Wow.
The fun
Yeah.
little journeys that we take to like end up on something totally random.
Hey, that's what's fun about this. So
That's it, man. That's it. All right. Well, I better start wrapping up because I am starting to sweat. I haven't eaten, and
you're gonna pass
it's
out.
yeah. I will probably die of dehydration soon. So call this my last will and testament. But if I survive it, everyone, I'll catch you guys next weekend on my next video. Sanjay, where can people find you if for some obtuse reason they haven't found you yet?
Well, I am at Engineer Wannabe on Instagram or Engineer_Wannabe, and you can find me on YouTube, Engineer Wannabe. Um, should be pretty easy to find. So yeah.
Cool. Most people, I think you've already found me. So hit that subscribe button if you like what you found. But cool. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you all of Sanjay's regular viewers. Thank you all of my regular viewers. Thank you for everyone who just popped in randomly. For anyone in the US, again, happy Independence Day weekend for you guys.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Everyone stay safe. If you're not vaccinated, then mask up, stay home, all that good stuff, COVID safety. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon, morning, or in my case, evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good night. Or day. Whoa. Mr. Fred left without ending the stream. What do I do? I could tell you guys a joke. Wait. Okay. Okay. I'm on the spot here. Okay. A blind man walked into a bar, and then a chair, and then a table, and then a door. Haha. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'll put you guys out of your misery. All right, see you guys.